Welcome, newcomers and true believers alike. This is the Count Down to Doomsday, an MCU watch along podcast packed to the brims with thrills and chills, twists and turns, and more supervillains than you can shake a Mew Mew at. Mew Mew? What's Mew Mew? Anyhow, I'm your host, Jake, and I am joined as always by the Valkyrie of vocal media, Sammy. Welcome. How are you
I
doing?
felt like a salute was in order there. I love that.
Well, you're getting into more voiceovers. You're on all of the Nerdy Up North shows in the entire world.
Bar one, bar one, but my time will come.
Oh, you want to come on the video game show, do you?
Oh my gosh. I think I would be put to shame with the amount of knowledge that is in that room. Like I'd be like,
Oh, it's I like I'd have anyone on, but I'm just like, if you get like super passionate about something and want to come and talk about it, be my literal guest.
brilliant.
um But yeah, it was just back. It's back just us two this week. We've
Yeah, no,
had our
no
guest
guess.
run. Now it's back to just us,
We've
the
had a
OG,
Lee.
the founding members of the Nerdy Avengers.
Oh, that's amazing.
We're like
It
Wonder Woman and
rhymes.
Batman,
The-
like the
Yeah, do
OGs.
you really want to piss the fanboys off?
Well, I didn't want to say like Tony and Hank Pym or whoever the original Avengers were. That's not really us.
No, it's not. It's really not. But we are going back to 2011 today.
God damn, what was 2011? I just got out of retail. I might have been starting the call center
Oh my,
journey.
we
We
weren't
just
even
had
living.
the winter of discontent the last in the 2010s.
Oh my gosh, we weren't even living in our first flat yet. We didn't move into that until 2012.
Yeah, I would have been living in Sunderland still.
I was living with my parents.
Yeah, me too.
I'd moved back home. Oh, oh well. I'll get the disclaimer out of the way with, so
Go
we
for
can
it.
crack on open this magnificent movie. It's been a joy. It really has.
Hmm.
Sure. Everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us in the Facebook group, the Discord, or the comment section where we can have an open discussion. But what we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong, because we can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of our nerdism.
Excelsior. I,
Perfect.
on that kind of subject of like
Mm.
toxicity, I don't think there's anything bad that anyone would say about this movie. It's just a fun action adventure. That's like,
It's I am not gonna lie. When we there's a few movies, last one being one of them, where I'm like, let's just. I know we got to get it out of the way with, and this kind of like
yeah.
sat there until I watched it,
Hmm.
and this is like the first time I've watched it in years.
Same.
It's so good.
But like back, I do remember like saying this was my favorite. Like, when we only had a handful, like
Hmm.
like one box set of the movies. Um, and like you're right, like Iron Man 2, like it's fun and all, and it's doing some more like it's doing interesting visual things. Like they're obviously
Mm,
working on like some of the like cyber tech that isn't
yeah.
really in this movie. Um, but I had to watch that twice when we were getting ready for the podcast, and even then, not every part was sort of super at the front of your mind, like when
No.
I'm trying to recall it.
Yeah.
But
This
this
one
one I
though.
just watched once, and I was like, that was excellent.
Me too. I watched it on Sunday. I was like, because I was it honestly, it was going to be something that I put on the background at work, and
Mhm.
I was like, no, no, I've got some time. I'll watch it, and I watched it. Like
Yeah.
no phone. I think I messaged you a couple of times, and that was just to kind of like make sure. That's my way of jogging my memory. Is
Oh
oh, I
yeah.
messaged Jake this.
No, it's fun. Yeah, like I do that sometimes. Where I'm just like, who's in this? Elon Musk's in this movie. I was doing that when I was watching Iron Man 2.
So you get a live watch along with me. Like I give running commentary,
Yeah.
but I can do that with anything. I really enjoyed this. There's some parts of us that make us think, oh, it's a bit pretentious. But then I remember
Mhm.
who's directing it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can kind of understand the pretentiousness now that it's not
Yeah.
meant to be. Um, I want to, before we start going into the film, I need to get this out of my brain, is the pre-production of this
Yes.
movie. Because this movie doesn't come about because Hemsworth makes it big in one film and they're like, oh, we'll go with Thor. This happened, it started in the 90s, 1990 to be precise.
Yeah.
So Sam Raimi originally envisioned making Thor
Yeah.
after he did Darkman. And it was actually Stan Lee who pitched the idea to Raimi and 20th Century Fox. And they were like, yeah, we love this. Let's do this.
Yeah.
But it kind of went a bit south because at the time Thor was a bit up in the air with who ownership was.
Yeah, I did like I put it on again just like as background viewing. And the first time I watched it, I didn't notice that it's like the Paramount logo comes up at the start. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, hang on a sec.
Yeah, this
That's
is
not right.
no,
But
because yeah, there's some confusion over who owns Thor, and it's not
yeah.
something that I could find out indefinitely. It is Marvel now, but in
Mhm.
the beginning, I'm not 100% sure. Actually, 20th Century Fox didn't get the concept, and
Yeah.
it was abandoned in '97. And it wasn't until the 2000s when X-Men started again that the idea of Thor came back up.
Yeah.
Um, and where I'm at, so I've got my notes here and I'm making sure that I am kind of following along with this so I don't get it wrong. So UPN was in talks for doing a Thor television show
Yes.
with none. Oh, go on. Oh, where have you gone?
So I was gonna say, is there some, or am I
Oh,
making that up? Sorry,
say that again. You
it
broke
might
up
have cut,
there.
it might have cut out. Is there some kind of version of Hulk in sorry, Thor in the Hulk TV show, like a live
Oh,
action? Because I think I seem to remember there being like a one spin-off special. So like,
potentially.
because otherwise I shouldn't know that Thor has a human, like, alter ego, because that's
Yes,
in
he
my brain
does.
somehow. And I
Yes,
never read those
he
comics.
does, and it's shown in the outfit and everything, and how Minyo is shown is actually in Ragnarok, the
Yeah.
umbrella.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's yeah. Um. So I cannot remember. Did Lee bring that up? I feel like Lee mentioned that.
Maybe. But sorry,
Maybe.
sorry for interrupting
No,
you.
no, you're all right. So yeah, they were gonna do a TV series of Thor with none other than Tyler Mane playing Thor.
Yep. The guy with zero voice lines, or maybe one, I can't remember.
Yeah.
He can do it.
In May 2000, Marvel Studios bought Asterion Entertainment to help. Brought Asterion Entertainment in to help finance the film, but in June 2004, or TV show, the project just went.
Yeah. It's a tough sell, I personally think.
It completely went. It then gets talked about again in 2005 when Goya and Marvel. Goya, I think he is something to do with Sony.
Yeah.
Um, they were in talks of distributing something to do with Thor. Um, Mark, and I'm going to hopefully not butcher this surname, I can't say it properly, who is a fan of Thor the comic book, agreed to write the script in 2006 for them, and the project moved to Paramount Pictures
Yeah.
after it acquired the rights from Sony. So it was Sony who had it, moves to Paramount, and then eventually moves to Marvel. So that year, Marvel announced that they're going to be doing, they were in post production of Thor.
Yeah.
And then once again, it goes tits up. And it completely goes. And then later on in 2007, Marvel Studios signed Matthew Vaughn. If you don't know who Matthew Vaughn is, he is the guy behind Kick Ass and I can't think of stuff off the top of my head what Matthew Vaughn's done. There's so many.
But he
Oh,
was
The
very
Kingsman.
but he was very popular around this specific time
Yes,
period. As
yes, and
someone who can get things done.
he rewrote the script that other guy had done.
Yeah.
And the director that they were going to bring on for this was none other than Guillermo del Toro.
Oh no, poor Del Toro.
Yes.
He gets another thing taken away from him.
Yes. He was so up for this. He is a huge Jack Kirby fan and loves the Jack Kirby's look of Thor.
You can tell.
And then something else came up.
Oh.
And Del Toro got took away to The Hobbit.
Oh no. That's like the worst end of this mini story.
That's it. 2008, Del Toro gets taken off to The Hobbit, and that idea is put on the shelf until Kenneth Branagh comes in.
Yeah.
And Kenneth Branagh was in negotiations. He finally gets what he wants. He wants to bring Daniel Craig along with him.
I saw this somewhere.
Offering him the Thor role. Thankfully, Daniel Craig went, no, thank you. And it then, because he was actually going to be, his commitment to the Bond franchise was obviously there, so he kind of moved on. But Branagh is now in control. It's now going to start running along with the Marvel Universe as it's being built on Feige's kind of vision. This is where Samuel L. Jackson gets it confirmed that his 9, the big deal that he got in Iron Man 2, it's like fully confirmed he's there. And the negotiations started in 2009 for Chris Hemsworth to play the lead character. However, it doesn't really go that way. Chris starts negotiations, negotiates too much, and they go, no, it's okay. Maybe we'll have a look at your brother instead. Like, they really played the two against each other. But eventually Chris gets a second chance, and he is given the role of a lifetime, and to him anyway, and he is given Thor. Obviously Liam is used later on in Ragnarok, where he plays the stage version.
Fake Thor, yeah.
Yeah. The Kevin Feige had a list of names for Branagh who were this is so good. Who were possibilities for Thor. So this is kind of alternative casting. Josh Hartnett.
Okay. It's a bit weird in my opinion.
Kevin McKidd, and I don't recognize that name at all.
No.
Charlie Hunnam.
Okay, I could see it. He kind of looks like Hemsworth, but he's like a little smaller.
Smaller, yeah. Alexander Skarsgård.
Interesting, considering the casting.
And he did audition for it too, and his dad didn't.
Swapped him out.
John Kinnaman.
Okay.
The best one is Alan Ritchson, who is in the Reacher series. He lost the part because he failed on the casting. He didn't take it seriously.
Right. Yeah. There is a few performances I'll talk about when we get into the movie that there's different levels of taking this movie seriously, I think, by different people.
And there is actually a good reason for it, and we'll obviously get into that when we're talking about the film. But the last one, the cherry on top of the cake, the one that I am so glad you didn't read beforehand. This was a serious choice. This was an auditioned role of the person who did it.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Drum roll. Triple H.
We were just talking about him last week.
I knew you hadn't read the pre-production stuff, because if you had, you would have seen that.
Someone, Paul Levesque.
Paul Levesque. Yes. Yes. Auditioned and
what's that, Jane?
With
his sledgehammer.
Yep. That is the starting point of this Thor movie, and it blew my mind to think that it starts right at the way at 1990. Like,
Oh, can you imagine what 90s Thor would have been like? Like I'm picturing like friggin' like Mortal Kombat or something.
oh my
Like
God, it would
in
be.
that or like Demolition Man, like in that kind of era.
We would either be reviewing this on a Sunday show as a piss take movie, like we have done
Yeah.
with certain movies, or a serious action movie, like
Yeah. And we would have
something
been
that is
like,
like,
oh, this is one of the greats, like
yes,
Arnold Schwarzenegger is Thor.
yes, yes, absolutely. I've been sitting on that since Sunday.
Oh, I'm
Been,
so sorry.
it's been killing us. I just couldn't. I couldn't stop reading it because when I saw Sam Raimi's name, I was like, "Oh, imagine if Raimi got his hands on Thor. It'd be
Rami and Triple
incredible.
H together at last.
Why has this not happened?"
So basically, I think this character Thor should beat everyone else. You're damn
Imagine
right,
Thor
I'm
doing a
going over.
pedigree.
Oh, he would have had to as well because they always had to sneak the wrestling finishes into the movies, didn't they? Like in Walking Tall and stuff like that.
I feel, I feel like we've been cheated here, mind, Jake.
Oh yeah, this is one of those like time machine like
Hmm.
things that you would go back in time. I
Hmm.
don't think there's any way we could get Hollywood to accept Triple H as a leading man.
No.
I think what happened was they probably saw his body and they were like, "Oh, let's get him in here," and then he was like so
Well, that's
bad.
no, but that's it because if you think about it, when Chris Hemsworth auditions, he is not the Chris Hemsworth you know now. He's
Oh yeah,
tall and he's lean, but he ain't built.
and I think that was this Triple H like evolution, like when he was like Gaston, like
Yeah,
in
it
his
would have
like
been, wouldn't
giant
it?
suit and like
And he's getting
handlebar
mutton
mustache.
chops.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that means Ric Flair and Batista and Randy Orton would have been the Warriors 3.
Oh no.
Oh, what a different life Dave Batista
Oh.
would have led if he'd if
Do you
evolution
know,
had been in Thor.
honestly, I'm pleased it didn't because I'm so glad where we have Batista right now. Um, oh God, yeah,
He's a
I knew,
national
and
treasure.
he is. I knew fine well you had not read that because I knew you
No.
would have been like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, somehow that completely so that I didn't even know anything about, like never ever heard a single second of that.
Brilliant.
Oh,
I'm over the moon.
I'm so
Um,
happy.
me too.
I'm gonna get
I,
so much entertainment just thinking about that.
it's honestly, it's been rattling around in my head. I think I told, no, I didn't actually. I didn't tell the
Haven't told a
Grumps.
soul.
I haven't told any. I think I told Anth. I obviously have to. I bought Anth with all of my like stuff that I learn. Um, I don't think there was any other alternative roles. Oh yeah, sorry. Zachary Levi was approached for the role of Frandl, but he turned it down. Dominic
Okay.
Cooper was rumored. But oh, this is so funny. But Stuart Townsend was then cast in the role as Frandl.
Yeah.
Stuart Townsend, the most unluckiest MF in Hollywood, because they start filming, they have footage, he then gets sacked again from another franchise. It happened to him in Lord of the Rings. It's now
Yeah.
happening to him again. Um, but
Oh
yeah,
man.
Dominic Cooper was actually rumored. Dominic Cooper, as you know, goes on to play a young Howard Stark in
Yeah.
the next movie.
Yeah.
Um, but
And he's
yeah,
good at that role. He's very good in that.
really, really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that they got to continue it on in Peggy Carter's
Mhm.
TV series. That was good. But yeah, I loved the fact that Stuart Townsend got sacked again. Like they've got footage of him and everything, just like they did on Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Oh, and I feel so bad for Del Toro because like he did some really cool work for The Hobbit, and that all got thrown out as well. Because I watched
Yeah.
a sort of mini documentary on The Hobbit and what went wrong with that whole
Oh,
thing, and his concept arts and stuff and like designs and sort of ideas were great, and they just totally trashed it.
well, two final things before we get into the movie, just the alternative castings. I
Mhm.
forgot that I had these. Charlie Cox, Daredevil himself, auditioned for the role of Loki.
Yeah.
He
he's
didn't
not.
get
He
the part,
doesn't.
obviously.
He's not snivelly enough, you know.
He's not. And now that I've seen him as Matt Murdock, he's Matt Murdock. Like, I can't
Yeah,
not see him outside of that.
yeah.
You're gonna, I don't know if you're gonna love or hate this one. But the original Loki that was set out for the 90s Thor that was under Sam Raimi
Uh-huh.
was gonna be Jim Carrey.
No, no, no. You can't do that because he's already played Loki in The Mask, technically. So he's
That's
not
where it
allowed.
comes from. That's where it comes from. Because of the mask, he was the high candidate and offered the role as Loki. And Josh
Like
Hart.
when the frost giant big monster comes out, he just goes and like hops around.
Could you imagine?
Oh.
Oh yeah. That is my honestly, that is my I'm just checking. That's the last alternative casting was Jim Carrey. So we've had Triple H,
Triple H
Joel
and Jim Carrey
Carrey.
in the same movie.
Oh Christ. I didn't think this is how it was going to start out, but hey,
That was a
here
good
we
warm
are.
up, though.
It was, it was. Um this movie is very, there is points in it where it is taken very seriously, and
Yeah.
that really comes down to Kenneth Branagh, and his way of integrating Henry VIII, so William Shakespeare's Henry VIII in the movie. That's
Yeah, I read
how
some of
it's,
this stuff. He wanted to make it like more Shakespearean. And
kind of
like
get it though.
yeah, it's a good idea. I don't know if everyone pulls it off, if you know what I mean, acting wise. But like, yeah, it's an excellent idea to, take some of the greats and be like, well, yeah, this is like classic, age-old
Hmm.
story, jealous brother,
And
betrayal in the throne room and all that good
yeah,
stuff,
and this
banishment.
and the person who plays it incredibly too, and I understand now where the love for this guy comes from, is Tom Hiddleston as
Mhm.
Loki. He got the assignment and he did the job.
Yeah,
He is perfect in this role.
but I think Chris Hemsworth does a absolutely
Oh
amazing
yeah.
job with the lines he's given. Like
Yeah.
there's like he's never distracting, you know what I mean?
Apart from them eyebrows.
Okay,
Them
I
eyebrows.
noticed them this time, but even then,
Jake the
it's not really.
Blonde.
I know, but just
He did
just doesn't distract me.
the
He's
hide,
Norse, isn't he?
the hide in his face. Like, it's so bad. And so I looked at a picture of him in Ragnarok, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh, that's better. Like, 'cause it's
Yeah,
honestly, it's so distracting, his eyebrows. But it doesn't, you are right though. Eyebrows aside, it doesn't take away from how he delivers every
yeah,
line. It's only at the end when Thor is starting to realize worth, that worth doesn't just come from winning battles,
yeah,
is when he starts, you really get a punch from everything he's saying, because up until that point it's not taken very, like, his dialogue isn't exactly the greatest. He's a knob essentially.
yeah. He's like a silly, like like the comics guy who talks in a different font to everyone else. Like he's got this big golden font.
Yes. Oh, Jason Aaron does that absolutely perfectly as well.
Yeah,
The different fonts, and they are
yeah,
beautifully written out. It's not Jason Aaron who
hilarious.
does the lettering, but his comic books are set out like that.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, go.
let's just go through it then, because we open in the desert, with our intrepid scientist team, which, you know what, I'm gonna say it's a cliche, but it's always a good time when the plucky scientists open up the movie and they're like, oh, this whole thing, I predicted it with all the nano thingies, and you're just like,
And all
yep,
the
yep,
bots and the such
this
what
is
and
all
the
it's all good stuff.
mm,
And yeah, so we get Natalie Portman. She's back on the Nutty Up North series of shows. Um,
I'm trying to get on
better,
board with her.
better
Trying to get
in
on
this
board with her.
role, but still weird.
I personally don't have a issue with I think people by now know my feelings on Love and Thunder and the way that they handled
Yes.
Jane Foster. I think it could have been done so much differently. But I enjoy Natalie Portman
Mhm.
as Lady Thor. Spoiler alert for years down the line. Not yet.
Yeah.
But and I don't mind, and I didn't mind her in this either. I wasn't
No,
looking going. Oh,
there's a couple of times where like I sort of, I wouldn't say like her accent breaks, but it's kind of like she becomes distracting in a like she kind of changes sort of mannerisms a couple of times in a sort of weird way where you're like, oh, that's very different from your sort of 10 seconds ago line,
yeah.
you know.
You're very quick to change your mind.
But again, that's probably direction. Like it's probably not really her fault. Apparently they make them do these lines like over and over and over for these Disney movies,
Yeah.
which is why a lot of the big actors don't super enjoy the
No.
day-to-day work on this kind of thing. Like
No.
Captain America famously was like, oh, I love independent movies, that's real acting. You're like, after he finished all this stuff.
Even though he's just signed to come back.
Yeah, but that's the thing, like it's they class it as a different kind of job. It's interesting.
And I can understand that to a degree, especially
It's
with
like
my acting
perfectionism.
background. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
with my acting background, it's just to do independent is to do a workshop. It's a
Yeah.
workshop in acting, and you get to learn as you go along and discover and develop. Whereas on a scripted piece, you are told
This
how
is a
you are.
job. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Kat Dennings.
She's
I
great.
love this woman so much.
Yeah, she's just like, it's just like the perfect sort of side character where, pretty much everything she says is funny.
Yes,
Um, and then they also use that to just sort of nudge the plot along whenever you need someone to just quickly say something. And just just the
just
most
give it a cat.
normal person like in this entire movie, because she's
Yeah,
not like a super scientist. She's just a student getting some extra credits, and you're kind of like, oh,
and
she's our like link to the real world, sort
but
of.
I love exactly. She's us.
Yeah.
She's kind of us in a way. I love the fact that she is kept along the
Yeah,
whole. She is there.
keeps
She's
coming
in.
back.
She's in one division.
Yeah,
Um,
that was a cool surprise.
that was absolutely like, just to keep her there to know that she's still a part of this. I love that. But the person who I love the most out of all three of them is Stellan Skarsgård.
Yes. um Not again, not his greatest performance, but he's very like comforting. Like I really like his voice and everything.
Wow, that's
um
Stellan. That's the Danish in him.
but I think again he's like being over directed, and I think if he'd just been left to do his thing, he would have been
Left to be
better.
Stellan, yeah, because when you get a performance out of him, it is nothing less than perfect.
Yeah.
And I kind of understand what you mean by this. It almost feels like he's a little bit held back, like he
Yeah,
can't just
or
relax into it.
they're like making him act like up, like they're sort of being
Mm.
like more energy, like more silly, more silly. um
No less, no less, no less.
Whereas like the roles we love him in, he friggin' smolders, like, and it's like
Mm-mm.
it's very like, like plotted and like
Yes,
low vocals. So I
yeah.
wonder if it was just a little bit of that where he's like, oh, I've got to play a silly scientist guy. Because
It's
in
just
like in Star Wars, he's like mesmerizing, like in Andor, and you just like, he has loads of like speeches, just him in the camera, and you just like you're like hanging on every word. It's
I get
incredible.
that. He's. Do you know who he reminds us of a lot? I'm sorry to hark back to wrestling a bit, but Jake the Snake Roberts, and
Yeah.
how the voice and the psychology and everything that goes along with what he's saying is like
Yeah.
you totally taken in. I'm trying to think the last thing I saw Stellan in, and it must have been Dune.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
it's one of the Harkonnens.
Hmm.
If I've said that right, I have pulled that out of my arse.
Now do a
Wow.
funny now do a funny walk around the room saying sandworms don't get you. Um, but
Stamp my
yes,
feet a bit.
I quite like this cold open because they just immediately run Thor over by accident,
He falls
because
out of the sky.
they're like storm chasing, and they're like, the weird, sky anomaly's coming, and then they accidentally hit him. Just to glance him on the side window.
I love how Stellan said, I thought you said it was the Aurora. And I was like, I know what that means.
Yeah. And
And it wasn't because it was different colored lighting. It was blues and greens and purples. Not what you would
right.
expect from. No, it wasn't. It was
Yeah.
completely not what you expect from looking at the Aurora lights.
Yeah, because it's the Rainbow Bridge touching down on Earth,
Yeah,
which
and
which is a thing from the Norse mythologies.
it
This whole
is.
movie's very like accurate to like mythology stuff, but also it just kind of like pulls in stuff. It's it's accurate in its imagery, but they have totally like spun the story around and just picked whatever bits they liked out of it.
Yeah, the movie and comic version of the Norse mythology has certain differences from actual Norse mythology. So the
Yeah,
couple of things. Odin lost an eye in a battle with the Jotuns. He actually took his own eye,
to like
um,
gain some
to gain knowledge.
superpowers.
There's knowledge. Odin is all seeing and he just wants to know everything.
Yeah,
So he gives his eye as a sacrifice. Loki is Odin's adopted brother, not Thor's.
and he's also the father of his horse, apparently.
They honestly, Loki's. If you go and read Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology books, Loki's stories are fucked up.
Oh yeah.
Like, but
Have
it's
you played the new God of Wars as well?
no,
Because
but
that
Anthas,
yeah, because they jump Kratos from Greek mythology to Norse
yeah.
mythology. Um, I'll not spoil it though, because it's kind of big spoilers. But again, they use Loki as a similar kind of like a
Think I want to say Ant's already told us it, but I could be
okay.
completely wrong. I'm forgetting
I'm
it.
gonna
So,
I'm gonna spoil it. It's from like 2017. Kratos' son is Loki. So
oh
Kratos'
yes,
wife
I knew that.
so Kratos' wife was a giant. And he's like kind of in a similar vein, the last of the giants. But yeah, you meet the
Um,
snake. He doesn't. It's not one of Loki's sons in that either. So I don't think people like to pull the sort of the many sons and daughters and animals that
no.
Loki's given birth to.
Um, and Laufey was originally Loki's mum, not his dad.
Yeah, it makes a little bit of sense for the name because it's a very sort of a gender name. You're like Laufey. No,
Laufey,
never heard
yeah.
that before.
But hey, at the end of Ragnarok, it's Loki who's standing at the top of it all.
Mm,
Loki is the sole survivor of Ragnarok.
which is scary because
It's
he's a little
terrifying.
bit of a bad man in this movie.
At the end of Ragnarok, it is, and I expected something like this
Yeah,
in one of the Thor films, but that isn't how it's panned out. But Loki at the end is standing on top of pretty much ash, and life starts to just start to peer out tiny little bit as he's walking around, and he finds a chessboard, and
right.
on that chessboard is all the gods who have just died as part of her. Yeah, it's
Sneaky.
so it's Loki at the end. A Roman god is actually seen in the banquet at the end of the movie. In Marvel Comics, North and Greek or Roman gods,
Yeah.
Asgardians and Olympians, respectively, are together.
Okay. So
That's
that's
how he's
why like
friends with. That's why Thor and Hercules are best friends.
oh, I forgot Hercules is in the MCU now. But that's
Yeah, that's
way down the
way,
line.
way, way down the line, and hopefully he gets used because I love the guy who plays him.
Yeah.
So
So
hopefully that pans out.
so once Thor gets knocked out, then we get the flashback.
Mhm.
Our cold open's over for now. And we just fly immediately right through the rainbow Einstein Rosen bridge, whatever.
There's some
Um,
choices made in this movie, mind.
yeah, straight into Asgard. And you
Yeah,
get this like really nice panning shot where it shows you like the crystalline underside, and then it sort of like tips the camera into like
yeah,
the cityscape. And I remember first seeing this and being like, oh hell yeah, it's adventure. This is adventure in time. Like we're done with the whole like sci-fi and stuff for now. We're going like straight into like old school adventure.
yep. And we're going in with Odin, who's been our narrator, as Anthony Hopkins does so bloody well. Um,
Do you
I'm
actually
just
like his performance in this movie?
not this one. I love him as Odin later on. I love
Yeah.
him in Ragnarok, especially when he's old man Odin, and
When they were
like
like, when he's like, I don't want to wear the outfit anymore, and they were like, oh, I guess so.
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins won't take off his checkered shirt.
No.
Just let him do what he wants.
But we get Hopkins as Odin given a background
Yeah.
on the Nine Realms and the Conquering and the Jotunheim. I'm saying that
Yeah.
right?
And
Yeah,
it shows you him, it shows them having a fight on Earth, and I'm like, rude.
yeah. Take your fucking fight elsewhere. You're not
Yeah.
welcome here.
And
Like, my goodness.
they say that's the sort of real world Viking history was like, oh well, that battle happened, so that's why all the humans know all these like tall tales and stories because everyone was hanging about.
Everyone was
Um,
there.
but then they withdrew back and they were like, no, no more.
No more. All done with. Well, actually, the Asgardians defeat the Frost Giants and they seize power. And Odin is like, I'm going to go back and chill now. I'm done.
It's mean though because they steal that like ice box thing, and from what it looks like, that's the thing that keeps their planet alive, and it's just melting now. It's like that's rude. Like,
Odin's not a very nice person in Norse mythology.
yeah,
Thor's a dick. He's honestly
yeah,
the worst.
yeah. I think you fight him in God of War as well, or something, maybe.
Comes across as
Oh no, he's the
terrible.
after the credit scene. You fight him in the second one.
Yeah. Well, now we're in the present. We've gone and done the story of the Nine Realms and
Yeah,
Odin and his power and the truce that he kind of puts it. He defeats them, but kind of
yeah,
classes it as a truce, when in
yeah,
actual fact he's got something over them.
yeah. He like took the livelihood, basically,
See, dick.
and then
We get to
yeah.
meet the Thor.
Well, we get meet Kid Thunder and Kid Snake Boy first.
Yes, we do. We meet Baby Thor and Baby Loki.
And he's like, I would have smashed the Reds in. And he's doing like little superhero, like,
My Loki's just walked in, and I tried
right
my
on cue.
hardest on Sunday to be like, Loki, meet Loki. And my Loki doesn't know his name. So that was really hard.
But
And
yeah,
yeah.
we do actually, you do meet full size Thor pretty quickly after
Hmm.
this. Apparently there was a little deleted scene where you saw some of Loki and Thor hanging about sort of before the before he comes out into the throne room.
Kind of would have
Um,
been nice because up until only until you get to Avengers do you realize the love between them
yeah,
two, because he's like, I think there's one line and it's beautifully given, like, I would have died for you,
yeah,
kind of thing. And the way them two interact with each other outside of this film, because this
mhm,
film, it's almost like the groundwork hasn't been put down yet, the heart, like the relationship's not quite there yet, maybe because they don't know where this is going to go.
yeah, yeah,
But it's certainly, I would have loved to have seen more interaction with the brothers,
yeah.
because maybe, and I love that scene, but maybe that scene might have had a bit more of a heavier punch, knowing what, like, I don't
Yeah, if
know.
we'd maybe got like, because even the first adventure they go on, Loki's like plotting during,
Yeah, he's
so
just,
it's like it's not a real fun time mission. um,
no,
but yeah, this is where we see full on comic accurate Thor immediately.
instantly.
Which is hell yeah, with the winged helmet and everything. Shiny though, chrome. They chromed him up.
It wasn't until I saw this and I messaged you and I went, I totally get the Love and Thunder helmet now. I get it. I'm sorry. I totally get it. It makes so much sense.
Yeah,
Looking at Odin's armor,
yeah.
that is very similar to what he goes on to wear in Love and Thunder.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a combo of like him and Loki, isn't it? A sort
Hmm.
of like it's a more like armored body, but the sort of the garish helmet, and
Yes.
a bit like
Loki's
Hela's
helmet in this is
giant
horrible.
thing.
Her headpiece is amazing. Loki's in this is too much. I love the
Yeah.
little horns. I don't like the big ones.
Okay. I think they use it okay because they do it very sparingly. um,
Um,
but I
and I
can
don't like.
see, yeah.
Oh, I don't like Hiddleston's hair in this either.
Oh yeah, they hadn't got the good hairdressers yet. I always say
Mm-mm.
this in TV shows and stuff where I'm like, oh, this is the season where they get the good hairdressers. Like you can tell.
Yeah. And that was it. Just took a couple of, like, I think it was Avengers, where his hair's a little bit just to his chin, and it's a bit
Yeah,
loose. And yeah, I love long hair Loki. I think he looks absolutely spectacular.
yeah. Like the Thor's hair's pretty nice, but it's very stuck in place. Like he's got this kind of like
That
perfectly
is, yeah, that
hairsprayed.
is very much a wig. And
Yeah,
I feel that he later on grew his hair. I honestly, I can't be, unless they really did get the best hairdressers, because that
yeah.
is definitely a wig. That is not moving at all off his head.
Not an inch. And it's even
Nah.
got like strands that go over the top and just like float sort of. And you're like, but
I
for a
mean, it's
god's hair,
great.
I guess it
Yeah,
should be perfect.
absolutely. So once we've had the little thing with the brothers, we then, are they going off on a mission, or are they
No
coming
frost
back?
giants attack.
That's it.
Because he's like, I now pronounce you the king of frost giants. And then yeah, some creepy dudes have come to rob the weapons room. But all that happens
Well,
is he's like, "Oh, destroyer!" And they just get vaporized immediately.
Odin's trinket room, his
Yeah,
room of wonders, which we later find out holds some artifacts that will be in
yeah.
place later on.
You see a few. There wasn't
But
any I
did you know
reckon.
what they were? Because I didn't.
No, I didn't recognize them from like Marvel lore because it's a lot of like, oh, like the eye of something. But it
If it was
does
the Eye
have,
of Agamemnon, if I'm
not
saying that
quite,
right.
but it's like it's something similar. But there is some stuff we see later, like that fire pit that he gets the demon, the Ragnarok demon's helmet out of. Like that's there in the background, the eternal fire or whatever.
Oh, I can't think of it. I do. I
Yeah.
know exactly who you mean. I just can't think of his name. Um, the gauntlet
All right.
is there.
Yes, a right-handed version apparently.
Hmm.
Um, but then Hela says it's a fake in
Yeah,
in a few movies time. So, but obviously they just didn't have this plan in place yet. They were just
no,
working towards it.
but
So
they had some things in, and hopefully Marvel fans understood them, because even I was thinking, oh, what we're going to see in here, maybe I'll know now.
yeah,
I'll know better. I didn't.
it's nothing. Yeah, it's not from the movies as far as I can tell. It's like mystic items from like actual Thor comics, which is cool. For the people
Yeah,
who are all up on that stuff. Um, but yeah, so like this is where we get the sort of the split between Odin, Thor, and Loki. They've all got very different ideas of like what makes a good leader, how you
yeah.
should approach things. Thor is like, we need to strike back.
We just need to
Odin's
fight.
like, yeah, Odin's like, I've already taken care of this, the dead. Like, what more could they do? They've been
Hmm.
punished.
Yeah,
Um, and then Loki's like, well, actually, there's some kind of a middle ground here, and that sort of just eggs Thor on to be like, right, I'm
yeah.
going
I'm
for
gonna
my
fight.
idea.
I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm simply just gonna fight. That is Thor. Oh, at this point, this is who Thor is.
Yeah,
He's a warrior. And all
yeah,
he knows is, to be the best, you've literally got to beat everybody else in order to be their best.
yeah,
It's obviously living in the shadow of a warrior father, where all
yeah.
he's trying to do is constantly, get his approval. How do you get his approval? You win the wars, you win the battles.
I mean, maybe that's what Anthony Hopkins was going for. Maybe he's like, if I play a bored, uninterested dad, that'll really hammer home like how neglected
Even
Thor
even when
is.
he gets angry, he's not really angry, is he? Like, he's
There's a
not.
part where he goes Rah! Instead of says words. But look, he's like, Father, please.
Just ah. It's
um,
it'll always remind us of like Dan Aykroyd in Trading Places, where he's like, meh. It's just like
pretty
that's
much.
that's all he can say. There's no other words. You just gotta
Yeah.
go meh.
But I bet on set that was really uncomfortable, but then everyone was too scared of Anthony Hopkins to be
And I
like,
bet everyone went, masterpiece, masterpiece.
oh, King Lear.
Oh,
Threw roses at him. But yeah, so that we get the sort of he rounds up his friends, the Warriors 3 and Sif.
Oh, F the rest of them. Sif is amazing, and I really
Yeah.
wish I would stop forgetting that Ray Stevenson is in this film. I really,
I well,
it breaks my heart every time I go back and
oh
go, "Oh,
he's doing some class A acting here where you do not know it's him because he kind of
no,
just looks like a Lord of the Rings dwarf pretty much. Um, did you
it's
think Sif
amazing."
looked really uncomfortable, as in like physically uncomfortable in this movie? Like I feel like her outfit must have been like crushing her or something because she didn't look happy.
She, I'm not. I can't remember now.
Okay,
I'm
then maybe I just noticed it then.
maybe. I do love Sif as a character, not as a comic book character.
Yeah,
She is hard as fuck. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, Ray Stevenson, I will never understand. I know he's gone now, and it's so fucking sad how he wasn't in any more fantasy stuff. Like, I'll
Oh yeah,
never wrap my head around that
yeah.
because
He's
he was
like he's
amazing.
Shakespearean as well, isn't he? Like he's very easy to
He's very thespian.
yeah, you can drop him into sort of anywhere and he'll fit. Even Star Wars, which was nuts. He was the best
And
thing about that series.
he he looked like when he was in that uniform, he was made for a Star Wars role.
Yeah.
Like
He was
he
very
looked the part.
he was very like, oh, this is the second coming of Count Dooku, but sadly he didn't get to sort of, develop it much more than that.
And he didn't
Um
get to see the impact that he had on that
yeah,
series. Like honestly, it breaks my heart.
yeah.
I've loved him ever since his King Arthur days.
Yes.
When he plays Dagonet.
That's one of your fan favorites, isn't
It's
it?
crazy how much I love that film. I shouldn't. It's awful.
You need to
Um,
make us all watch it.
I should just to, but I understand. I get it. It's terrible. It's a terrible film. Like
Yeah.
Clive Owen is horrible in it. Keira Knightley is terrible in it. But it's the men. It's the actual knights themselves. Like Ray Stevenson and Mads Mikkelsen, a very young Mads Mikkelsen. Um, what do you call him? The Cockney guy, Ray Winston, who him
Yeah.
and Ray Stevenson. Oh my God, how they work together is just magical. Sorry, this is not King
It's all
Arthur.
right.
This is Thor.
Well, no, you're describing a team with more chemistry than the Warriors 3 have, because we just get a
There's nothing there,
samurai,
is there?
a samurai, and an Englishman.
Yeah,
Like
there's absolutely nothing there between the three of them. However,
yeah.
that I say that changes later on.
Oh
Like,
yeah. They
but
get some time. But I think like
yeah,
you say, we never get to see them on a proper
uh-uh.
adventure. Um,
Nah, we
which I
just got to
feel
see them
like
come back from one, go to one.
yeah, it's a little bit of a missed opportunity because this is a weird one where like Thor's flying off the handle. Loki's like, well, it's Thor. So we better just, run along. And then everyone's like, yep,
Hmm,
I guess we gotta go stop Thor from killing himself. Um,
exactly.
so yeah, they like orbital drop in, using Heimdall's little rainbow bridge that he shoots across the sky.
I absolutely adore. I can't think of his. I
Idris.
want Idris Elba. I wanted to
Yep.
call him by his office name,
Oh,
because he's in the office. I adore Idris Elba as Heimdall.
his his voice is perfect for this kind of like like this kind of character, like this like holier than thou sort of
Mm,
I see everything type of thing.
like, I know,
um
I know what you're going to do.
yeah,
So don't try and get one over me. I
but
love
in
him. I love how he looks.
oh yeah, it's like crazy eyes. But like
Nice.
it's cool how they play with it because you think like, oh well, the trope is the gatekeeper's gonna be like, you can't leave, like Thor, like this is ridiculous. But he's like, no one has ever slipped past my defenses before. Go find
Mm,
out who the hell did this. And he lets them go, which is I like that because there's loads of adventure movies where the adventure is like stopped by things,
yeah,
like and the hero has to like get
figure
himself
out.
free. It's sometimes a bit fatiguing, so I'm glad in this one it's just like, oh, I thought he's allowed to go and get
Go
himself
on
into
through.
trouble.
Yeah, like I'm not being held responsible for your stuff.
No, yeah,
Um,
everyone kind of knows Thor's deal at this point, so they're just kind of letting
yeah.
him fly off the handle because I guess that's the only way to get it out of
Mhm.
his system.
I really think they hit the nail when it came to Heimdall and the casting.
Yeah,
He was absolutely he's breathtaking when you first go up to him and he's just standing there with a sword and is like,
yeah.
oh my God. I love
Less
it.
is more with Idris Elba. I think that's what I'm discovering since Knuckles and everything.
I've kind of, do you know what? I have not seen a lot of Idris Elba. He's in The Office.
Yeah.
It's very hit and miss with a lot of fans, his
What's
era
that?
in The
What's that
Office.
cop show he does though?
Luther?
Yeah, that's really cool. You would
I've
probably
heard,
enjoy that.
I know my sister always tells us about it.
Yeah.
The one thing that I liked him in, but I hate this film so much, was Dark Tower. Um,
Yeah, that's terrible.
it had it had some of the greatest acting between Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey. It was, but the script, the story was
Yeah.
absolutely horrific. Like I sat the entire time and took my nail varnish off, just sitting chipping away at my nail varnish because I was so angry at it. I was like, "You've got the perfect chemistry between these two. They are absolutely fantastic, and you have ruined it. You have literally taken a book series and went one done." Honestly, it gets me so angry when I talk about that film because it's such a wasted opportunity.
But yes, we can't start talking about the Dark Tower series now. Come on, back to Jotunheim. Back to Jotunheim.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Okay, so they go off to war. They go and fight, and Thor comes back to Asgard thinking he's going to get a hero's welcome.
yeah.
Not quite, because
Oh,
Odin had to keep. Well, Odin had to come in and
he
kind of
gets
go,
the absolute opposite. He gets told off by
yeah.
his dad.
Well, because Daddy had to come in and stop things, and Daddy had
Yeah.
to reassure that the pact between them two was good. We're
Yeah.
good. It's okay. I'm sorry about my son. I'll deal with him,
Oh, it's
and
very
deal
much
with
like
him.
you
He did.
grounded.
Deal with him. He did because he strips him of everything.
Yeah, I like that he like physically does it as well. Like he sort of he goes and like, like rips his like cape like things that are like holding it, like the big metal caps that are on the thing.
Just rips it all
And it's
off,
sort of like
and
all of his like armor falls apart. Like I liked how like physical it was.
very much
And
so. But he
just
also
whips Mignola through a hole, just like
Minor. Well, yeah, Minor is completely taken away from him, as in Odin has said, "You can't take it. You're not worthy."
puts the little inscription on it, which
Yeah,
apparently I think was always on in the comics, but
always.
it's like actually written on it in like like normal font. But this time it's just on the little, you can, when he talks into it, it shows up that sort of triple knot thing, which is like an Odin symbol.
Yes,
But it's sort of written on the top. There's that circle on the top.
yes.
It's mostly written there, but it's like slightly off. It's like something like we'll have the power of thunder and lightning or something like that.
We'll have the power of. It's just Thor, the power of Thor, because Thor
That's well,
is the
that's
embodiment of
Oh, that's sorry.
thunder
That's
and
what they
lightning.
say. Like that. Yeah, that's like that's the prophecy. But in the
Mm.
runes, it like says like
Oh, got you.
he who holds this hammer will have the power of like thunder and
Power of.
lightning.
Well, it always. I can always hear Clint Barton in my head going, "He who will be worthy will have the power."
Yeah, it's a really it's one of those classic comic things. It's very goofy, but they managed to like pull it off in a way here
I
where
think
it's
it's
like it
cool as
makes sense in
fuck.
the story.
Yeah, I
Because
can
he's
definitely
teaching him a
say,
lesson.
oh yeah, and a big one at that. This is like stripping his whole identity because that's all Thor knows
Yeah.
is his hammer, is the power that could. Because up until Ragnarok, he thinks his power is his hammer, when
Yeah.
it's not. It just harnesses his power.
There was an interesting thing I noted down as well when he sort of just he's describing like the hammer to him in the throne room, I think, and he's like,
Hmm.
"Oh, forged in the heart of a dying star, like has the power to destroy and to build." And I'm like, has he ever used it to build like in the movies? We'll have to keep an eye out for that one.
Will do now after we've said that. Um, I can categorically tell you though that that hammer is not the one that I saw.
No,
That
but
had what from what I remember, the hammer I saw was had these kind of crisscrossy things going up because that's when I said I would rather have seen it as
yeah,
a leather crisscross, like a
yes,
strap going through it, rather than what was on there. This didn't. It had circles going around it.
right, like a circular wrap, yeah.
Hmm.
But it is supposed to evoke like a wooden
Yeah,
handle wrapped in like leather, yeah.
This is definite. It says it's from Thor 2011, but I'm looking at it now, and that did not look like what we saw
Okay.
on screen. But maybe, I mean, I don't know.
Maybe yours was just the action one, the whipping around.
Oh, it
What?
does say action manual,
Okay.
so
So like,
maybe.
what did you think about the action? Because we sort of skipped over it, but like
Mm,
we get a bunch of like Thor, smacking around frost giants. It's very weightless though. Like I felt like he's kind of just like spinning it, and he's just like going knocking it into people and like
yeah,
kicking up dust at them.
he hasn't figured out
Yeah.
how him and his hammer are gonna work together yet.
Yes, you're right. It's kind of like he's like using it.
Yeah,
He's not like working with it. And I guess
no.
that's what he's needing
And
to
that's what
learn.
you'll get later on. But yeah, he's figure. There's a lot of figuring out in this movie,
Yeah.
which I'm totally fine with. It's laying groundwork of something that at the time they obviously hoping is gonna something's gonna come of it.
Oh yeah. I love an origin story. I'm big on origins and
Yeah, and I do love a Marvel origin story. I feel
yeah.
like take this one out of the equation, their blueprint of origin stories works really well.
Yeah.
I
Um
enjoy them.
yeah, that's why I like the first Star Wars as one of my favorites because it's like the start of the journey and you get to like get Luke's like, realization of like the
The
world is
start of
bigger.
the Star War.
This is kind of the opposite where Thor isn't realizing the world is bigger. He's just like, oh crap, my world has now shrank. I'm mortal
Yeah.
now. I'm stuck like
Yeah.
on Midgard as he calls it.
Midgard
Um,
and he's so arrogant. Like his arrogancy is it's even worse once he has his powers stripped away from him.
yeah. So we do go back to the running over part and get the continuation of that
Yes,
story.
we're back there.
And he's just like wandering about being like rah, rah, and like they're like, oh look at this dude, like he's hot. And then he's like my hammer, and she's like, yeah, we can tell you're hammered and stuff like that. It's they pull some really like good silly jokes like from this point on.
The hammer, Mino, is landed in the Mexico field, hasn't it? Because
Yeah, he like so Thor gets blasted through first, and then
uh-huh.
he does the spell and then whips the hammer, and they sort of like go off in like a little opposite direction, not too far away though.
That's right, because the locals then find Mino
Yeah,
and try to pull it out, and this is
yeah,
where you get Shield.
and Stanley.
Oh, thank you. Right, I
Did you
must have
miss him?
blinked. I must have blinked and miss him. Miss
He's
him? Missed him
he's the guy who puts the chains around it with
on
his
the
pickup
yeah.
truck and
I
pulls the
now
back up.
now that you've said it, I know exactly which part it is. But
And he's like, "Did I get
I was
it?"
like, where is he? Where are you, Stan the Man? Yeah. So the locals have found it, and Shield obviously come in and
Oh yeah.
with
I,
Phil
I
Coulson.
I love how they're having like a tailgate party though. They're like grilling burgers and like everyone's just like
That looked like a
piling
cool
in.
party. I feel like we should recreate that in the summer in my
Yeah.
back garden. Like we should like barbecue it up and recreate the
Get
whole.
a sword
Uh,
and a stone.
let's do it. Let's make some memories.
So yeah, like they put up the not medical, like the government facility tubes
Yeah,
around it, like the ET tubes, as I'll always call them.
and I get that reference. Um, yeah. So Thor is with Jane, with Darcy, and with Eric Selvig.
Yes. So they take him to hospital and he beats everyone up and gets like sedated. He breaks out of hospital to run him over again. And that's where they kind of take him in a bit.
Yeah.
And like Jane's like, why don't you have my ex-boyfriend's clothes?
Why not? This is not weird at all. Um, once we've left, like Thor's like he's figuring shit out. He's
Yeah,
smashing coffee cups up in the funniest way. But I remember that being in the trailer. I
yeah,
remember the smashing of the cup.
yeah. Another, and then she's like, no smashing. He's like,
It was
okay.
very Viking of him. We then we go back to Loki.
Yes, and we get some revelations, don't we?
We do. And I mean, do I have to be who has to be the one who tells Loki you're not part of this family? Because when you look at him, he doesn't look like his mum. What's his mum? Mum Frigga?
You know what? Do they name her in this movie?
Yeah.
Like, actually say it out loud? Because I
Yeah.
feel like they just call her mother the whole time
The
and
might
stuff.
of, do you know the might of it? The might of it. It might only be because I know her from later on,
Yeah.
is
Oh,
why I
yeah.
said that.
I'm sure, like, they do make her a bigger character later on, but they're very like dismissive of the wife of Odin for this one.
I'm so
Um,
sorry, I've just sneezed. That's awful.
it's all
My
right.
apologies.
It didn't pick up. But yeah, so like this is where like Loki touches the blue cube, and he's like, "Hang on a sec, I can touch the blue cube." Oh, because he gets grabbed by one of the frost giants in the battle, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he has the mark on his
It goes all
arm.
blue.
It's the Tesseract, right? I'm not mistaken in my.
I don't think
That's the
it's
Tesseract.
inside. No, I don't think it's inside the frost cube. Um,
But but that's what. Oh,
it,
I'm very confused by the
it
whole
was in the
thing.
Nazi church, I think. It's still in depending on when this takes. Well, yeah, we know when it takes place. Yeah, I think Nick Fury's got it because they find it in the Nazi church in the next movie.
Ah,
I think it's just
touche.
an unrelated blue
Right.
magical power.
So, okay, that makes sense. Sorry, I was actually trying to look for it there and look for her bloody name because it's annoying as now. It's
There is
keep
a
talking.
Freya, right?
Frigga.
Okay,
Frigga. Frigga.
okay.
That is her. That is Rennie Russo. Whew, that was going to annoy us. Um, I love her line in. I know this is later on down the line, but I love her line in when you see her in
Endgame.
Endgame. And she was like, "I was raised by witches, boy." I love it.
But
Yeah,
yeah, so like this is where like he tells the story of like, oh yes, you were a little baby, small for a frost giant. I'm thinking like,
little
I
baby
too
Loki.
right.
No,
He's definitely the smallest frost
he was
giant.
definitely the bloody runt of the litter. Um, yeah, I don't understand how Loki doesn't see not just outside of the Frost Giants, how he didn't see that he was very different to
Yeah,
the rest of his family.
yeah, and he's more like magical focused, isn't he? Where he's like, he's not like a battler. He's more
No,
like a
yeah,
like an illusionist.
yeah. He would
um,
be Midge.
yeah, but then
Look
this
at
is
me.
where this is where he kills his dad by shouting at him.
Well, he falls into the Odin sleep.
Yeah, but it's just like he's just like, oh, well, you know, you said I'm adopted. Like, I hate you, Dad. And he's like, oh, oh,
Oh no, son's it's like
I've fallen.
you faked a heart attack to get out of a fight, to
Yeah,
get out of an awkward situation, awkward conversation.
I must
Oh
sleep
shit.
now for 100 years.
I love the fact that it's just called Odin sleep. Like
I
that's the
know
actual term for
he
it.
invented it, whatever it is.
That's me on a like afternoon.
Um,
I'm going for a sand sleep.
yeah, so like this is where we start flashing back quite quickly between like real world and then like
Hmm.
Asgard goings
Yeah.
on because we flash back to Thor, um, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go get my hammer. Goodbye, everyone." It gives it gives Jane a little kiss on the hand, like an old world,
Yes.
and she's like, um,
Oh, shucks.
at that moment, she's gone.
Hmm.
The blinders are on. Um,
Yeah.
but I love this part though. Oh, there's a cool part actually where the professor guy is like, "Oh, I knew a guy who Shield made disappear. He was an expert in gamma radiation." And I was like,
Yes.
"That's Bruce."
You said Bruce's name. Kinda.
um, and yeah, then this is where you get a great thing where Thor goes into a pet shop and he's like, "I need a horse," and the guy's like, "We just have dogs and cats here." And he's like, "Well, give me one of those that's big enough to ride."
It's funny because Freya, the another Norse god,
Yeah.
she her chariot was run by two cats.
Yeah. So it's within the mythology. for that to
Yes.
be normal.
And then obviously you get the goats, which is just, my ideal ride. As
Yeah.
as everyone seems to have been learning in the nerdy up north community, I love goats.
Oh yeah, goats are great.
I
They're
love
just a
them
good
so
time.
so much. I was explaining to the Grumps about my love of goats, and then I started proving that my TikTok algorithm is just goats.
um, and again, we flash back again. Speaking of goat horns, now Loki is on the throne with his wait, he's doing a proper like evil pose as well, isn't he? Like just kind of like head down. When everyone approaches
Yes.
and they're just like,
I can't quite pull it off as well as he does, like, and I'm
yeah,
sitting on like, no, I
yeah.
obviously don't have the
The
menacing.
the helmet makes it.
I don't
um,
like it. I don't like it. It looks like tusks. Like, I
yeah.
don't like how big it is, and in proportion to him, it doesn't quite work. If Thor was wearing it, that might have been a different thing. But
He would have
Tom
kept his
Hiddleston,
wings, I think.
Tom Hiddleston is nothing wet through. Like, he is tiny. His frame is so small,
I think I
and
know what
yet
it is. It's because it makes him bug-like. It's off-putting to you. He has bug antenna now.
bug
He's
eyes.
like an ant.
Oh, no, don't mention that. I don't know how I'm going to get through Ant-Man.
Uh,
I hate them, by the way.
yeah, all his buddies, all the buddies run in and they're like, "Oh, hang on, I guess we better bend the knee to Loki." And then they're like,
Oh,
if I may have your counsel, good sir, could we just
hmm.
bring Thor back?" And he's like, "Thor
No,
back? No way, get out."
no,
And so
no.
like,
And
so you know how like Loki has become like an anti-hero moving
hmm,
forward, like, but in this movie he's definitely full on evil. Like,
yeah, he's you. You forget from here to Avengers that
yeah,
he's a dick.
yeah,
Like he
and
was like, there's a reason like he was such a bad guy in their first movie.
and the sort of say like, oh, he was like, threatened into it like around the Avengers time, which I can
Yeah,
believe, but in this time, he could have been living with like, because I don't know for sure, but surely Odin could take on normal powered Thanos at this stage. Like he's not, like an unpowered Thanos.
oh
Like,
yeah. Well,
yeah,
if you take the Infinity Gauntlet away and the stones, Thanos isn't like the be all
yeah,
and end all.
yeah. He's just like a big, because
Yeah,
he's an alien, so he's
uh-huh.
he's he's different.
He's
He's
just
built
big and
different.
purple. Uh-huh, exactly. I'm sure there's a few times where he's had his arse handed to him by somebody when he
Yeah,
doesn't have, Adam
yeah,
Warlock's probably done it a few times, I'd imagine.
yeah. So like, yeah, that's why I'm sort of dubious. Like at this point in time, Loki's doing this all of his own accord. From what I can see, there's no like blackmail or intimidation
It
happening.
would have it would have been nice to have some more cosmic elements
Yeah,
around, like even if it's just mentioned, like that they are there to like know that there's something more like because when Thanos finally gets to what then becomes Asgard, they're very much aware of him.
yeah,
Like
but like,
Loki's very much knows him.
and they talk about the nine realms, but they're like totally separate from
Mm-hmm.
the other planets, as far as we know. They're like
Yeah.
sort of Asgardian planets, kind of. Which we've
The
now
don't.
seen most of them. If there's
Mm-hmm.
only like the elf realm, I think, the light elf realm that we haven't seen apparently on
Yeah.
MCU screens. Um,
Interesting.
but yeah, you're right. It would have been nice to sort of have some more sort of insight into how the universe works. But this was very early days, so they probably hadn't thought about it. But yeah, like, so this is where we get the Thor super secret agent infiltration into the Shield base. Um,
Yes,
for
because
some
he
reason,
wants
everyone,
Jane's stuff back.
yeah, and for some reason, everyone decides to fist fight him. In this movie set in America, no one takes a shot at the muscle bound guy.
Take one look at him. See the first guy and how it pans out with him. Then
Yeah,
make your mind up if you're going to go and take him on with a fist or
yeah,
pull your gun out. One of the two. You know what I mean?
and Sammy brought the Hunter Hearst Helmsley, but I'm bringing the wrestle move countdown. Thor does a massive back bump drop kick on a guy in the mud when he's like wrestling that
Whoa.
guy. Um, that was just a full-on wrestling move.
Well, that is awesome. But yeah, so he wants Jane's stuff back, and this is where he's taken captive because
He tries the
when
hammer first, yeah.
yeah, well, and he's definitely still like he hasn't done enough. But I
Yeah.
don't know if Thor is even thinking about the worthy side. It's like it's the power. It up until a certain point, that's all Loki and that is all Thor is looking at is I don't have my power. My
Yeah.
power's not there. It's not a kid. His power was always there. It's just it was trapped at the fact that you've been a knob. You need to stop doing that
Yeah.
in order to have your power not come back, but be present again. You haven't
Yeah, like
lost it. You're a god for fuck's sake.
yeah, he's like, this is a very hard lesson where it's a puzzle to figure out and like, physical stuff
And
to work
especially
through.
for someone who is very close-minded as what
Yeah.
Thor is, I'm not saying he's unintelligent, he's just incredibly one track.
Yes.
Alcohol, fighting.
Yeah. Um, and speaking of fighting, this is where we see Hawkeye for the first time.
I think I messaged you and went, Hawkeye.
Yeah. He's
I
just
totally
called
forgot.
he's just called Clint, I think, in this I think that's all they refer to him as, or
Yeah.
Barton maybe.
I don't think
Um
they give a name, but like if you
yeah.
know, you know.
I did know back in the day and I was super excited.
I wouldn't have, not now.
Yeah. Um but yeah, like so he's sort of he's like taking aim at him. He's like, give me the word. But first they do a weird thing where he almost grabs a gun and he's like, what about my cool bow?
I love when he later on he going, I'm kind of rooting for this guy.
Yeah, when he's having the big mud fight. But yeah, so like Thor, you know how like we were saying, like, oh, it's very like over the top and stuff. Like this is
Mm,
where I think Thor's acting sort of shines above everyone else's because his full on emotions. Like
mm,
he tries the hammer, like proper like scream at the sky. The
yeah.
big biceps are on show, like it's
I
one of
love it.
those
I'm not
shots.
gonna lie. I do like them kind of shots.
Yeah,
Evans does an amazing one with a helicopter later on.
yeah. But it's just the way he like drops to his knees afterwards and he's just like
Lost.
totally defeated.
Yeah.
Um and what makes it even worse, like right after this, he gets a bit of a grilling from Coulson, but he's not really talking to him. And he's like, who are you? Like, CIA, FBI, like, like
Kind of.
Russia,
Yeah, like
are you a
yeah,
hired,
Coulson.
are you like a PMC guy, like a hired hand, like gun thing?
I love that Coulson is just looking in this world and
Yeah,
our world categories as opposed to thinking outside of the box on this one. But he wouldn't be because they haven't really Shield hasn't really getting a foot into that kind of thing
nah.
yet. But this is when Loki manages to convince Heimdall to let him through the Bifrost, and
And do
enter
one of the
Earth.
worst things that he does in this movie.
Yeah,
It's absolutely heartbreaking because he does the whole like he does the emperor thing from Star Wars where he's like, in your anger you killed your father type of thing.
he tells him that he's killed. It's that single tear. It's
Yeah,
that single tear, and I think you're right. This is like such a turning point for Hemsworth's acting because
it's
I
very
choked.
quiet, it's subtle as
Yeah,
well, it's quiet, it's subtle.
yeah, yeah.
He
It's he,
literally says like, can I come home? And he's
yeah,
just like,
and it's the way
no.
it's almost like a child. Like,
Yeah.
am I allowed to come home yet? Like,
He's just
and
like, well, what about like, oh no, mother doesn't want to see you either. It's just
yeah,
like,
she's
oh, every dagger he can put in this guy's heart, he
he
just
does it.
immediately
He
goes
does
for
it
it.
right there and then. He literally goes for the jugular, and it is the delivery of no when he
Yeah,
tells him he can't come home, and my heart broke at that
yeah,
moment, and it really is down to Hemsworth and how because he wasn't angry, he wasn't angry anymore, like, and he would have old Thor
yeah,
before before not. I think the whole not being able to pick mine Europe spoke so much home truths to him that
yeah,
maybe just having that experience alone, not being able to pick his hammer up, was enough of a lesson for him to start to look at himself differently.
Yeah, because that was his one. That was the only solution he could think of. He was like,
It's
"Get
a
the hammer, then
it's
I'll
physical.
be sorted." Yeah,
He's not a deep person. He's not someone who would look upon himself. His hammer is his thing.
yeah.
And when that's taken away from him, who is he? Then he has to start really asking the serious questions. Who am I if I am not my hammer?
But he like the interesting thing I like about the way they do it though is like he's not a total like knobhead. Like he's nice to like the humans and stuff. Like he's not like
He gets there. No, he's not.
yeah,
He's arrogant, but he's not a dick.
yeah. Like he's full of himself because he thinks of himself as like the legendary Thor, but he's never like mean. He doesn't like belittle
Mm,
anyone or like steal the stuff.
no.
He's like, oh, like, can I have a ride? Can I have a horse? Like, he's not like demanding things. He's
No.
still polite.
And when Loki sends the destroyer down, which is just about to happen,
Yeah,
it's when he thinks that something's happened to Jane, and he's like, as long as you're okay, like that's all
yeah.
that matters.
Oh yeah,
Nothing
and
else.
he
He's so
rushes to like
sensitive.
like to save the people of the town as well. Like I
Hmm.
noticed he's like, oh, get everyone out. Like you
Yeah,
guys get everyone out.
yeah. He goes. It's like he takes all of his warrior skills, all of his fighting skills, and kind of like takes the fighting element out of it. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? Like
yeah,
the
yeah.
physicality is being taken away from it. So what else do I do with my team
Yeah,
in war?
he's like, well, I'm a good leader, so I'll have
Hmm.
to be the strategy guy for this one.
That's it. That's it.
Um, but his strategy really is that he's gonna sacrifice himself so everyone
Yeah.
else can get free. Because I think that this is like that's the moment where he's like, that's it. He's figured out I can't get back, and because he's like let everything go and done a selfless act, that's kind of what like triggers him to get everything back.
Yeah. That's right. And this is when he sacrifices himself, he is now worthy of the power of Thor
Yeah.
and being able to pick his hammer up. Actually, he didn't just pick his hammer up, he fucking commanded it. He like
Oh yeah.
literally went to him.
Oh yeah. Which I always liked about the hammer, that it's the most, I guess they've got like a weird like magical link in it. So
I love things like that because I love Doctor Strange's cape is almost like its
yeah.
own character, and Manuel kind of has the same thing as well.
Yeah, like they never go like as far as to like have it like move on its own and sort of be a character, but it's
No.
very much like you can imagine like Thor talking to the hammer, like it's one
Yeah.
of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so once he's got his hammer back, he's worthy of his hammer again. He kills the destroyer very easy. Like
Yeah.
it's effortless once he's got Manuel back in his hands.
Interesting monster design though, because I was thinking I
Mm,
am a fan of the whole possessed suit of armor gimmick.
right?
I just think it's fun. It shows up in like, Castlevania type games, like haunted armor, like headless
The
horseman style stuff.
the the only haunted armor I have ever seen is Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's
And that was pretty cool. That's got a
oh,
good
yeah.
cool song to go with it as well.
Definitely shows up in D&D. I can't remember what they're called exactly. But
That song stuck in my head now. Um
I quite like how it's sort of like it's like an impossible creature as well. Like it like they think, oh, it's like shaped like a man, therefore I'm gonna like stab it through the back. That works on
yeah.
people. And then it just like sort of turns like, all of the sections just like twist round and suddenly
the,
it's
the,
like,
the,
oh
the mechanics of it and the noises that came from it were pretty special.
yeah.
But I do love how Thor's hammer rips through it. I love the sound of bending metal.
Yes, you were saying
Sounds,
on some other cast.
yeah. So I love the noise of it when it literally rips through the middle of him.
Yes, because he does a thing that I'm not sure Thor does many other times, maybe once or twice, where he makes a big whirlwind.
No,
That
he doesn't. No, he does. Does he? I'm
does he
trying to
do it
think.
in like Infinity War? Maybe.
Do you know when oh my God, that entrance when he comes down in Infinity War, I cry. Um, but he just wheels the hammer, he just spins it, and it's like the whole "Bring me Thanos." I don't
Yeah.
feel like there's anything behind it because
Okay.
you've got Groot on one side and you've
It's
got
it,
Rocket on the other.
and it's the axe thing, which may have different powers. I'm not quite sure how that all shakes
Stormbreaker is
out.
Stormbreaker belongs to Beta Ray Bill. It was a gift given to him by Odin.
And
And Beta
Sammy
Ray
takes
Bill,
Beta Ray Bill very seriously,
very
everyone.
seriously. Beta Ray Bill had a mishap with Stormbreaker recently and lost him, and it broke him. Like this is kind of like in line with this film, as
Yeah,
in how Thor loses his hammer and he loses Stormbreaker. His whole identity is around this weapon, and then he
yeah.
starts looking at himself and in the physical look of himself as well, and it
Oh,
really, oh my God, it is so heartbreaking, but it is wonderful how he is very much built up by the end of
okay.
it. You have the confident Beta Ray Bill at the beginning, a very broken one at the end, and a completely new, and like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like he's he's mended, he's fixed. He's not
Yeah.
fixed in a way, like he's just he's a better person than what he was when he had Stormbreaker. He gets
Um,
Stormbreaker back, but it's still like I
that's it. We're
love it. I
gonna
love him.
as as we go on, I'm gonna become Beta Ray Bill pilled and collect all of his comics.
Please do. Please, honestly, he's one of my favorites. I love him so much. The little horse face little thing. Love him
He'll show up. We'll see him. We'll see him in a few months or so. Oh,
eventually.
one thing I forgot to mention was like
Mm.
they do actually do a nod to Thor's human side when he's hanging about with the humans because that's Jane's ex-boyfriend, apparently Dr. Donald Blake,
Is
which
his
was
pseudonym.
yeah, that was like the normal man who
Yeah.
turned into Thor when he grabbed the
Yes.
hammer or did his little speech thing. It was a bit more of a He-Man sort of situation, wasn't it?
Well, Adam.
Yeah.
What kind?
But like that's what he was like in the Infinity Gauntlet comics.
Yeah.
He has that alter ego that he like transforms into Thor.
With his umbrella. His
Yeah,
umbrella is mine.
it's weird, isn't it?
I love
But
it.
I'm glad they got rid of it for this because it would just complicate things even more.
And you don't need to. We just at this moment we just need to know Thor. We
Exactly.
need
Yeah.
and to add them kind of elements would just be really confusing.
Yeah.
But once the destroyer is destroyed,
Yeah.
and him and Jane have their kiss, and he leaves to go back to Asgard to confront Loki because he knows what's been going on because the his friends and Sif came down and they kind of helped out.
Oh yeah. Is there a Renaissance fair in town?
Amazing. Loki betrays Laufey,
Yeah.
um, and
Big
kills him
time.
big time. Kills Daddy.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you're thinking, oh, is this Loki's turn? Was this all just a trick to kill the frost giant? And it's like, no, actually not. He doesn't turn
No,
good here.
I honestly think Loki at this point is just he knows he doesn't want to be in the shadow of his family anymore, or the
Yeah,
family he is
anyone,
known.
yeah.
But I just feel like he's just playing it as it comes. Like there's no great plan. There's no I'm just gonna see how this one goes, and if it doesn't work out, I'll go here. I don't think there's
Yeah.
like a complete strategy for him. He just
He's just
plays
wrecking
it by ear.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, and he has a tendency for doing that, and we're gonna see a lot more of that of Loki later on.
He freezes Heimdall, and then it's like, so then Thor can't technically get back for a little while.
Hmm.
But then Idris Elba just manly flexes out of the ice with his pure like manliness. He's like,
I'll get you,
then
you
he
bitch.
then he kills the frost guards, and then he opens up the bridge so Thor can give Jane
Yeah,
a big smooch and be like, "I'll come back for you. I
I'll come back for
swear
you,
it."
baby. And Odin wakes up.
Hi, yeah,
Um,
a little bit.
just enough in time to save Loki's life.
Yeah,
I'm
and
just
then we
forgetting where I'm up
actually
to.
no, like yeah, this is pretty much like, oh, storm the castle. Thor arrives, but then we get, which I didn't remember happening, and I didn't like predict we would see. We get a fight between Thor and Loki, like a honest to goodness, action scene between these two very mismatched
Yes,
partners, and the actors aren't great at the fighting the thing.
yes, that's right. Does Loki fall into the abyss at some point? Is this where he thinks Loki's dead?
No, well, a little bit. They sort of knock each other around. I think Loki like fake falls over the side, and
Mm-hmm.
then Thor's like, hang on, and then he appears behind him because he's got that like, 6 different images thing going on.
Yeah.
Which Thor just immediately like smacks the ground, and it's like, oh yes, the big lightning explosion. You forgot about that move.
Yeah.
Loki. That's gonna hit everyone. But I do think the amazing thing is where he puts the hammer on top of Loki to pin him down to the floor.
Yes. I loved that so much
It's
because
so funny.
it was brilliant. It was the fact he was trying to shuffle around it, like
A little
trying to
bit,
like,
yeah.
hurry down, get this way.
But it
And
doesn't
that
crush him.
no.
And he still it doesn't shut him up either because he's just like it. You failed. You can't stop the Rainbow Bridge. It's gonna explode Jotunheim like if it stays open for too long, which they do mention at the start is
Yeah.
a possibility.
Yes. Where are we at? The brother. So Odin then awakes, and that's when he stops them from falling into the abyss. He stops them both.
Yeah, because Thor has to smash off the end, like the
Yes.
Heimdall palace, because that's the only way to like stop it, which then closes himself off because Thor's like, you'll never see your girlfriend again. Like if he smashes it. But yeah, so like Odin like grabs them, like action movie style.
Yeah.
Loki's like hanging on to like the end, like like the end of his like staff thing.
That's
Um,
right. And it's Thor's fine, but Loki allows himself to fall into the abyss.
yeah, but I
Also,
think he
we
makes a
think.
portal for himself.
Oh
Like
yeah, also
you
we
can
think
definitely,
because we know he's
yeah, you
we
can.
know he's come back.
Oh yeah, but I think you even sort of see it. Like I remember watching it at the time, being like, he sort of disappears
Like,
into a
where
little
you going?
before he
And this,
hits the abyss. Yeah.
yeah, and we get Thor telling Odin he's not ready to be king. He's got a
Yeah.
lot. Like he's still like he may have proved himself worthy on this occasion, but he still has a lot of learning to go before he's finally starting to see the potential in himself, other
Mhm.
than just being a really good fighter.
And I'm quite glad they do it this way because um I think if he'd got the kinghood like now, it would have been
Mm,
like it would have been less like for the future movies it would have been like less for Thor to
yeah,
do as a character.
yeah,
um and it would have been like weird with him like leaving his country, like to go off and have weird adventures on Earth.
yeah.
um
It wouldn't have worked. It was a really good move because there's you can't say for one act for one moment of selfishness to then go, you're worthy now, you're worthy to be king. That's just one moment. What
yeah,
about everything else? It can't
yeah,
just be that one thing. He's got a lot of learning to do, and I really love that we get to see Thor progress. He is a very progressional character throughout the whole of the MCU. Regard
yeah.
love or hate it, he progresses brilliantly each time you see him. He is always learning and always growing and always something different, but it's still the same charm that Hemsworth brings to it. Like
Yeah,
he's so good at it.
he's like like you say, he makes his mistakes and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
like other than Steve Rogers, he's probably the most like wholesome and like trustworthy hero character like we have, where you're like, oh,
Yeah,
you can rely on Thor, like he would have your back, you know what I
yeah.
mean?
100% you would. I wanted to see so much more. Age of Ultron
Yeah,
had some brilliant interactions between characters that had nothing to do with superhero talk time. Like it was
yeah,
just normal ass day-to-day talking. And
yeah,
get Thor and Steve Rogers together is
yeah.
just
Let them have a
magic.
drink together.
Would love it. I would love to see it more. I can't wait for us to
what
discuss
what
Age of
did you think
Ultron.
of those giant drinks they had, the Boilermakers, which apparently I looked it up is just a shot of whiskey in a pint.
Oh gosh, okay. That's
I
like
don't know how that would taste. I
no.
might make one for Christmas.
And then record it and see what happens.
Yeah, and I'll drink, I'll fight, I'll make my ancestors proud.
So where we leave Thor is left on Asgard, yearning for Jane, who is on Midgard, but all the while Jane is trying to find a way to
Yeah.
open the portal
I
to Asgard.
I do love this because it's a very, very like fantasy like trope moment where he's like Heimdall, can you see, like what's happening on Earth? And he's like, she searches for you. And like that's all we get. And like a little like we get to see a little clip and everything.
Yeah,
It's very like adventure, like classic fantasy ending. I
yeah.
like it.
So the post credit scene is kind of
Yes.
setting up the Avengers because
Yeah, very
it's
much so.
yeah, so it's Selvig talking to Shield, actually talking to Nick Fury, who
Yeah.
opens a briefcase up of very much Pulp Fiction style. Look at this mysterious
Yeah.
cube in my suitcase. That's the Tesseract, right?
Yeah, that's I believe the space stone. Like
Well, but yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Fury says it may hold untold power.
Yeah.
And this is when you find out Loki definitely didn't die,
No.
because he's there.
I think he's still a bit messed up though, isn't he? If I'm remembering right, he's got a bit of like bloody forehead going
Yeah,
on.
yeah, he's not
So this is
perfect.
this is very much like straight after he kind of
Mm-hmm.
he's working fast.
Yeah.
Um yeah, and he does like a repeated line thing. So I guess we're to believe he the
Selvig
doctor is
is,
under his
yeah.
control
Well, we learn
as of
that,
now.
and we will learn that later on I think we've got one more movie before it.
It's so exciting.
It's really exciting. This is such a brilliant, this is, oh, this is where Marvel's like kind of, it's made its place a little bit. Like
Yeah.
it's just starting to get in there, and fans are starting to respond to it brilliantly. Because
Yeah.
when we move later on down the line, and we get the likes of, Iron Man 3 and Thor 2, the fan base goes nuts.
Well, I was just thinking about this because I remember seeing this in the cinema, and like watching the end scene and being like, oh yeah, Captain America's coming next year, like that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't remember a lot of people being excited about Thor and Captain America. Like people loved Iron Man, people loved Spider Man. People were excited for the Avengers initiative because they'd been talking about it for so long.
Yeah,
So I feel like these two movies in this period are a little bit underappreciated.
massively.
Like
And
the cinema wasn't that full, like for Captain America, if I remember right, stuff like that. So people were still warming up to it.
oh,
But for people like me and you, this was just like building and building and getting more exciting every time. And
yeah,
like there was just nothing like Avengers like
not
in my
not. Oh
life
no,
so far.
totally, totally. Do you know the first one I saw at the cinema was Age of Ultron? So that's
Yeah.
where I'm at. Like in where I'm. I think it was the
Yeah.
year after I started, 2015. So yeah,
I mean, remember as well, we're in the era of 3D movies, so you've got
I
all that to
remember.
contend with. Like, our cinemas were just in the toilets, like
Yeah.
at that time.
Absolutely. I have the comic books that inspired this. I also had to, as in like what I had to do last time, I had to cut it short because I'd
Yeah,
literally be going through first appearance of Sif. Da, 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 da.
yeah. There's a
Um,
lot of characters in this movie when you think about
yeah. So
it.
the first one is Journey into Mystery issue 83, which was released in August 1962, which is Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. It's the first appearance of Thor.
Nice.
In the very first Thor story, the story is very different with a secret identity that the film abandons, Donald Blake. Um, so yeah, the second one is Journey into Mystery, issue number 84. So the introduction of Jane Foster.
Ah.
Are you going to see a pattern here? Journey into Mystery, issue number 85. The first appearance of Loki, Odin, and Heimdall. That was again 1962. Um, we skip a bit and Journey into Mystery issue number 92 from May 1963, the first appearance of Frigga, which is Odin's wife, Thor's mother.
So was given third, fourth billing
Yeah.
on
This
this
is
thing.
when I started realizing what was going on because I cut it short very soon.
Yeah.
Journey into Mystery issue 102, March 1964, the first appearance of Sif, and Journey into Mystery issue 112, January 1965, the first appearance of the Frost Giants and Laufey. So what I've wrote underneath is just go and read Journey into Mystery.
Yeah, it probably is a pretty good time because those like anthology books always seemed fun to me, but I just wasn't alive when they were being made. Let's
Yeah.
face it.
So when it come down to the recommendations, now I said last time I would have loads because I am a huge Thor fan,
Yeah.
comic book fan. I've narrowed it down.
Well, I was thinking because you like a lot of modern Thor, which we aren't there yet, but
We're
will show
not.
up.
We're not, and you're absolutely right. So I've kind of narrowed it down. So I've got to coincide with the Thor film. Marvel launched a number of new series starring the character in the mid 2010s. So there was
Yes.
setting things up. So these included Thor, the Mighty Avenger, Thor First Thunder, um, Thor for Asgard, and Thor and Iron Man. The limited series Thor the Mighty Avenger was published across 8 issues from 2010 to 2011. So that is the one that leads you into this. This is like
That
that's a good
yeah,
starting point.
and that's a very good idea because Thor, from what I understand, was another one where his character was kind of on the backbench, like in the sort of
It's
like the early
not
2000s and
it's
stuff.
not until lead up to this
Yeah,
movie and
because
after like
aren't
literally
aren't
after.
aren't we in Ultimates territory in the sort of
Yeah.
2000s and stuff?
Yep.
And like when they were trying to reboot Fantastic Four and make them all like edgy and stuff like
Just leave
that.
them alone. And the last recommendation I have now, I've debated whether or not to put this on
Mhm.
because this plays into later on. But
Yeah.
this one came out in 2012, so it's directly after the film.
Hmm.
But the story of this is later on. But it is if you Jason Aaron is one of my favorite comic book writers, one of my favorite Thor writers. Like the guy gets it. He
Hmm.
is Thor. And it's Thor, God of Thunder.
Yeah.
It's the introduction to Gore, the God Butcher, which is why I
Yes.
hesitated in putting it in here because we know he comes in way, way, way down the line. But
Yeah.
it's such a good introduction into Jason Aaron, into his Thor, and it really makes you fall in love with that because then you later on get the Mighty Thor, which leads into Jane
Yeah.
Foster's Thor. Like it's so good, and I thought I would put this one as a recommendation, which is got Thor: God of Thunder from 2012, because I feel like if you start with that, you will start a love affair with this
Yeah.
character that will blow your mind.
Yeah. And like there's definitely eras where you can catch him in the Avengers comics, but
Oh,
when he
absolutely, but he's not. It's just
often yeah, oftentimes he's a bit of a chucklehead and or
mm,
he's just hanging about having sex with everyone, talking in
yeah,
like old English. He's a very
yeah,
he has depth, this character. He's got many different faces.
hugely, and I'm kind of getting excited to revisit Thor 2. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
After off the back of this, and kind of getting a better understanding, like I think because now I've I've been reading Thor for quite some time now, and
Yeah.
obviously Beta Ray Bill plays a huge part in the Thor universe. That maybe I might look at things a little bit differently than I have
Yeah.
done, because I
uh,
certainly feel like I've done that with this one.
And you know, it's a little bit different when you're like sat in your own home. There's no money on the line because this stuff's all on Disney Plus. Like going to the cinema can feel disappointing when you're like, I've just spent 40 quid between us here. Like
Yeah,
and this
this is
Thor
why
Love
I
and
kind of
Thunder wasn't that much fun.
this is why I kind of think when I go, I quite enjoyed it. This is why I kind of think when I go to the pictures, like I come out going, I really like that. It's like I have to say it to myself because I have to remind
Sometimes
myself what I've just spent to go and do that.
that's why I only got the cinema like once a year to see like a movie I definitely know I'm gonna
Yeah,
like.
I get
um,
that. But yeah,
I wanted to quickly go through because you know when you were saying like the mighty Thor, I was like, right,
hmm
that is Thor's prefix.
yeah,
You know, like that's his official comic book, the
hmm
mighty Thor.
the mighty Thor.
We have the amazing Spider-Man, the
hmm
incredible Hulk, the invincible Iron Man. Is that pretty much all he
I
gets?
think that's right. Yeah,
Does Captain America get one?
no,
Is he just the like the Star Spangled Man?
I didn't even hear Star Spangled. Like Whenever I've been reading Captain America, I've never heard Star Spangled Man apart from the song. He's a Star
Yeah.
Spangled Man with a plan.
Which I love. But in the when he's in video games, they don't really know what to do with him, and they just
He's a
sort
Boy
of
Scout, that's why.
they make his attacks where he's just like stars and stripes and doing like stuff like that. You know, like he just says things about
Shield.
the American flag pretty much.
Oh, they just don't know Steve at all. And
No,
I
but
can't
we're gonna get
wait.
to know him.
I can't wait to tell you all about. I'm gonna not don the horror tea, and I've got a laundry of. I do actually have a Thor t-shirt, a vintage Thor t-shirt. I just couldn't find it.
Nice.
I'm gonna have me Captain America with proud. I might bring me Captain America mugs just to like have them. I've got Captain America bag somewhere.
Yeah.
Civil War. I went well out. I had a bag, like my shield bag
Oh,
and
you were
everything.
like decked out.
Yep.
Nice. I've definitely had a Captain America t-shirt since like, the days of buying stuff from HMV, like
Yeah.
nerd merch
Doesn't
around
matter.
this
Doesn't
time.
matter what tea. I will always have a Captain America. Like I can get rid of
Yeah.
all of my other teas. I will always have a Captain America t-shirt kicking
Oh,
about.
I'm just excited to talk to you about him because like I know we didn't talk much about like Thor's outfit and stuff, but I'm very
Mm,
particular and passionate about Captain America outfits.
me too.
As the series goes on, we'll get a few.
Oh, wait until Winter
Thor's
Soldier.
quite consistent, I would say. Like out of everyone, he's generally
Poss-
good. I don't like.
because
Yeah,
it's
sorry.
possibly the color. No, it's just possibly the color choice because it
Yeah,
sticks with the same. It sticks. The gold is very distracting, so you're not really. If there has been many major changes, you're not really looking at it. It's very distinct on Cap when the suit changes,
massively.
even if the textures of it. There's more to it than Thor's.
Yeah,
Um,
because he has to be armor, so you can only do so much, I suppose.
yeah. Oh yeah, and yeah, I've just had this image of I lo- I loved it when Thor when he transforms when he goes
Yes.
from normal to in his armor. I just wish they did it to Cap.
Yeah, yeah, that would have been pretty
Would have been fucking
special.
immense.
But
Not
maybe it
only did he,
speaks to like Thor's mind, where he's like, I need to
he's
look good
yeah,
at the same time.
yeah,
Whereas Steve is
absolutely.
very practical.
Steve's not looking at the fashion side of things. He just wants to be able to move and be flexible. But I can't wait for next time when we do the First
Yeah.
Avenger. I'm not going to lie, I potentially could get emotional.
Oh
He
yeah.
means a lot to me. Um, it's going to be great.
He should mean like the well, I'll talk about it next time, but he should mean a lot to the Marvel fan. I think he's underappreciated personally.
Yes,
Um,
he is.
but yeah, I'm very, very excited to get to that one.
Me too.
Because and we're gonna it's our first little foray into a World War II movie, which I don't think me and you've ever talked about like that kind of
Never.
thing before on the
No, we
podcast.
haven't.
I don't
Never.
think any war movies have ever really came up, and I know this is a very like
Could
little
you
day
cla-
trip around World War II. It's not
could you
very
class
serious.
could you class Street Fighter? There was a kind of war going on there. No?
Yeah, that was in Shadow Lu, the fake nation state.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but yeah. So that's been Thor,
That's it.
a massively fun movie that still holds up today,
Mm-hmm.
shockingly. And I'm
It's the
happy
first
about that.
thing. It's the first thing Jake texted us when he was like, "I've watched it," and it generally still holds up. And I was like,
Yeah,
"I'm really excited to watch this now."
absolutely, massively.
Yay!
But
Thor in the
yes, and
bag. We're really coming down on this list. Like,
I know we've been. This is
there's
us.
still
We're nerdy
so
up
much
north.
more to go.
We're still counting down to Avengers Doomsday, where Robert Downey Jr. will return as a baddie, possibly, I guess, probably,
We
definitely.
don't know.
We don't know. We haven't even seen a trailer. But that is what we're counting down to. So every 2 weeks we hit a different movie, and hopefully we'll be done right before. We'd love for people to watch along with us
Hmm.
and drop your stuff in the comments or get excited about like what's coming next and all that fun stuff. Um, yes, 2025 is going to be the year of Doomsday around here, and we're going to try and get the word out a bit
Yes.
better and
Yeah.
see what
Absolutely.
fun stuff we can get involved with. Um, But yeah, I am Jake. I stream on Twitch for us, on our little gaming up north side of things. So if you want to see us playing games and chatting about any nerd stuff, come on by. Sammy, do you want to take away with all your many projects? I hear you've
Well,
been grumping recently.
I do have a guest spot on another amazing web series that's held on the Nerdy Up North YouTube channel, which is Top
Yeah.
Grumps. So I've got a special episode. I say special because I'm on it. I am no longer part of the Women of Nerd Culture anymore. So
No.
the ladies are rocking it themselves. I do Doomsday with Jake every 2 weeks. And also, apart from the Nerdy Up North side of things, on a Sunday, I also host a horror podcast, which is Monsters Up North, which will be back. It's on hiatus at the moment. Season 2 came to an end. We're having a break, and we will be back on even the 13th of January for season 2, and it's gonna be a spooky one.
But if you want to listen to it, there is so many amazing episodes out there. There's
So
no
many.
shortage.
There's not, and you can find any podcast that is associated with Nerdy Up North. You can find each and every one of them under the individual names. So if you want Women of Nerd Culture, if you want Gaming Up North, if you want Trekking, if you want Monsters, if you want just initially Nerdy Up North, go and search on anywhere you get your podcast from, and you will find every episode that's been done.
Yep.
There we go. And if you are on YouTube, please remember, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode.
It'd be great if you did. We'd love to talk to anyone who drops by and checks one of these out. Tell us what you think, because we've got millions of movies. We're gonna have more guests. You could be the next guest if you charm us in the comments.
You show the interest. You start the conversations. You never know what might happen. Yeah. We're very good people.
Definitely. But yeah, so with that, all that's left to say is Thor rules. And how do I like all my podcasts? I'm gonna make them all Marvel. That's what I'm gonna do. Everything on Nerdy Up North is gonna be yeah. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.